Hey everybody, welcome to 2218's Attitude for Gratitude. It's Tad here, and I'm hanging out with my best friend.
Jimmy J.
Hey, you want to read the vision statement?
Tad. How about you tell us about 2218 first?
So here at 2218, which is the world's longest continuously running Alamo Club, I got stumbled on my words. Hey man, we need help always, and if you want to help, Matt's going to do the link. More important than your money is possibly your time. So if you're interested, just come on down here and fill out the application. And we need people to help with stuff. The summer's coming up. We're going to have to do a spring cleanup. We need volunteers for the Ride for Recovery, for the front desk, all that stuff. This place is near and dear to my heart. It saved my life. And I think it's important to keep it around so that it's always around in the heart of Minneapolis.
100%.
Being a beacon of hope for all of recovery and everybody. And my buddy Timmy's going to read.
The Alano Society of Minneapolis' vision. It's to be the premier Alano clubhouse serving the greater Twin Cities that offers support and strength to those who suffer from addiction and their families. Yes, this place has saved my life too. Hey, Tad, how's your week been going?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Anything we need to report?
Yeah, I was just going to pump up the show, then let's go back to that. I was just going to say, dude, I'm pumped. We got Rick here and we got Jesse here. They're two of my favorite people. If you've never been to the 4-Step Workshop, it is back on.
Yeah, come 23rd, it's here.
Check it out, man. I tell all my sponsees to go, whether they believe in anything or not. I just had this conversation. I was like, look, man, it changed my perspective on doing the steps and doing the inventory, the way I thought about it. Just like how we're going through the steps in this show, that's how they do, but they do it. They take even more time. They break it down into 6 weeks. They go over the 4-step and dude, knowledge is power. So how can more knowledge be a bad thing?
You're not going to lose out.
Yeah.
You're not going to be wondering where that hour went.
Right. If you can make it, check it out. It's from 6:30 to 7:45, right in the auditorium. Same place we do the podcast. So this is hallowed ground. Lots of cool things have happened in this room, including their workshop and our podcast among them.
Yeah, I want to bug them about how long. I don't know an official time of how long that 4-Step Workshop's been going on.
Rick?
Well, on Wednesday?
Yes, in this, how long have you guys?
Oh, I was doing this on Saturdays here for it's been probably close to 28 years.
28 years.
28 years and running.
Yeah.
Well, we were doing it sort of intermittently on Saturdays, and when the step classes were on Wednesday night, nobody was showing up, and I was doing one of the step classes.
Okay.
On a rotation with 4 other guys. And nobody was showing up. So I just approached the board. I said, hey, let's do something different. I'm doing this workshop anyway, off and on Saturdays, and let's just do it on Wednesday night. And that's how it ended up on Wednesday, and the step classes dissolved into nothing.
And then out comes the 4-Step Wednesday. How long has that been? The Wednesday alone, that one in this room, the 4-Step.
It's gotta be at least, I don't know, 10, 12, 15, I don't know. Maybe 15 years. I don't know.
I was at SNL 3 weeks, the week that Elena
On the
took
list
over.
of the things that we do for the community, they list that, just so you guys know.
It's known across the recovery community about the 4-Step Workshop with you boys, and I was talking to some old timer, a guy named Ken, who's, I think he has 42 years.
That's Ken Hart,
Yep. We were talking at SNL, and I was just telling about the podcast. We have it in this room. He's like, quite a few, I'd say about a dozen years ago, so he was off a couple years, went to a 4-Step Workshop. First time I did a thorough 4-Step. That Rick B, I'll tell you what, he was in it 42 years recovery, and he said 10 years ago is when he did his first thorough 4-Step.
Yeah, his wife came first.
Oh, yeah?
And
I'm not airing
Go
no
figure.
business. I just, there's a lot said in that. I know that first time you guys were on the show, that following Wednesday, I came to the 4-Step. It was packed. MJ brought all her sponsees. The room, there was, because we had the curtain closed, and we had to bring in extra chairs, and That's always a good thing. More faces in recovery is always a good thing.
Well, I introduced before the show my sponsee to Jesse and told him, and Jesse's like, get Tad to come. He's like, get this guy to come every Wednesday when he can. It might be harder because he's busy, but so like I think, between my hidden agendas and other stuff, I'll probably be making it there.
We were here when we were off, right?
Oh, we came here and we talked to people, and I did some safety meetings. They all found their own meetings, but and they all know you're coming back. But
Well, we've been saying every week on the show.
we did a
we've
safety
been-
meeting, and
It's right in front of me, so I read it every week.
Oh, that's great. That's
Mandy got a sponsee, which every time we go somewhere, she's getting sponsees, and I'll tell you what. So since you asked how my week was, I'll
Yeah,
get back
how's your
into
week
it.
been going?
I have been working with 2 new guys, and it has blown my mind open completely. Somewhere I got a little bit of an ego, guys, if you don't know.
Oh, really?
And
You're one of us. Okay.
And somewhere in the tad of recovery, I do all these good things bullshit that goes on in my head sometimes. I thought that I help enough people between the things I get paid to do, as helping run a sober house, the New Spirit place that I help run. I talk to a lot of newcomers, and I spend a good 20, 30 hours talking with new people. The stuff I do up here, the podcast. So that's enough. I told myself I don't need I gave myself permission to not sponsor guys and to be too busy for it. And it's not great. It's not a great look in my head. And so when I started working with this guy, and the other guy that I'm working with is a crazy story in itself, because he used to be my mentor. He was my house manager. He taught me a lot about the sober housing business and mental health. He got me hooked up with the therapy early in my recovery. So he meant a lot to me, and now I'm his sponsor. And the other guy I'm sponsoring has more clean time than I do, but he's never worked the steps or had a sponsor. So it's really cool. But as I'm working these steps, like I had a lapse in judgment the other day where, and my sponsee was in front of me, where I walked a guy out. He was trespassed and due to really bad behavior, not something I like doing. And on the way out the door, he said some things. He said some things about my girl. He said some things about some friends. And so I told him where he could put it. And I know better. Being as how I'm in the security business, I deal with people like this. But rather than turning it into a big deal, I messed up. It was fine. I got to tell him as we're going through step 3, do you think, whose will do you think that was? Do you think that was my will? Do you think that was God's will? And it was a teachable moment. And because he was real down on himself about some stuff, and I had to be like, hey, bud, check this out. Do you still think I'm not qualified to be your sponsor? Do you think I'm not qualified to work, to be on the board? And he's like, absolutely not. You just had a bad moment. And I'm like, why can't? So give that love to yourself and practice turning your will over in these moments instead. And I don't know. I feel like an idiot for not seeing it before. And like, I constantly have these moments where I learn things and then I forget them. And it's been a week like that where I've had to continue to eat humble pie, admit when I'm wrong, live in the solution, and know that I don't know shit. Every time I think I know something, there's a new answer. So it's been a cool week. Like last week was talking to people, trying to vet people for the board for half the week.
Yeah,
This
I know.
week has been talking
That was an
to
undertaking
sponsees,
for you. Yeah.
young people, and getting a deeper connection with my lady, trying to give her an hour of my time at night because she hears me making all these phone calls or doing all these things, and then she gets Dad who just wants to watch TV and have fun. And
It's easy to get in your head about it too.
yeah, the thing that really gets her is her thing. Like my thing is Madden. Her Madden is intelligent conversations, and she sees me having those with everybody, and then I'm like, let's
Well, you're
just
damn near spent. by
talk
the time
about
you get home.
Legos.
Yeah.
And
Legos.
watch cartoons because that's what I want to do, and that's I don't know. I was just telling one of my sponsees today, relationships are work, and I say this all the time. You got to put in the work. So, how about you?
Real quick side note is anyone who's able to share this to other people, please do. We're having some issues sharing it across the board. It's saying it's unavailable, and I don't know if it's if people who don't follow it and then we share it with them and they pull it up, it's unavailable. But let whomever know if you're listening and you wanted someone else to get it. we're gonna correct this issue and figure out exactly why that's happening. Sorry to anyone who is dealing with that, but if you want to talk someone through it, they can go directly to the 2218's Attitude for Gratitude live Facebook page, and then go to videos, and it'll pop up live.
And make sure you're following us on that thread. Otherwise, we won't see your comments live
we're
on the
just
air.
having issues. My week, it's standard. I told you guys about a career opportunity. I start that officially on Monday, which is it's a life changer. It's a career I'm going to be hopping into. I'm very excited about it. Some life showed up today. Of course, that's what happens. I was thinking about it. After I talked to you, I boo-hooed myself on the phone to Tad earlier about an hour and a half ago. Anger is a funny thing. I was thinking about it. It's like, I hate being angry. I get even more mad when I'm in my head about it. But it's me who allowed it. The reasons, and I tried to play back what got me so frustrated and so angry. And it's pretty petty in the bigger scheme of things, but I don't want to give my examples. I don't want to even say what happened. It's just I let myself get so worked up and so angry in a matter of 10 seconds. And then I had to deal with that for the next half hour until in my head I'm saying, what the F are you doing? After I hung up from you, when I boo-hooed, I need 20 minutes to just sit. I'm going to pull over and pout for 20 minutes, basically, is what I told you. That's when it took 10 seconds of negative thinking and letting someone's response to me upset me enough to get to that point. It's just, anger's a funny thing. I'm the one who allowed it. I can't be mad at the person on the phone, this company who had to follow this policy, who had to deal with this regulation. And the person who's talking to me, they're just following some rules, whatever the case is. Whether it's that situation. This happens time and time again with me. It doesn't matter how much time I've got. I'm the one who allowed it. I used to preach that a lot about I'm the dictator of my own happiness, or I'm in charge of how happy I want to be.
Right.
It's the truth. So I don't know if it was the point of me replaying the conversation after I hung up from you saying, did I really just tell him I'm going to pull my truck over and pout for
you said
20
that.
minutes? I did. Literally, after I hung the phone
do
up.
what you got to do, man.
I don't know if it was that conversation I had internally with myself saying, did I really just tell another grown man I'm going to pull over and pout for 20 minutes and then I'll be at the show? Or was it that I realized I'm the reason I'm pissed off? I'm not even mad at someone. There wasn't a single one person I could be mad at but myself.
I do that. And then I get mad at myself for not acting how I think I should.
And then that 25 minutes, that clouds me for my whole week. I had a great week. A lot of good shit happened this last week. Lots of good things. Just lots of good things. I was recognized for my clean time at a couple different meetings. I got to help another guy from the show who was struggling throughout the week. Like, life's good today. I got those champagne problems. So, other than that, week was really good. We got a great show tonight. I'm going to apologize to both of you boys for missing the last 2 times you were here. Personally, sorry. No, not sorry, but just wish I was. I meant to be here, and I wish I was here in person to hear the story about you hiding above these things in the bathroom down at the Social Security office.
People love that story.
Oh, I popped on at the perfect time. I was driving up north, and I was like, "Oh, this is good." I thought they were only going to dig into step 1, but that was good. Yeah, right. It was
people
just.
who only know you from like workshops or stuff.
Oh, I
That's all
didn't
they
know. I
you
never.
from,
I
and
couldn't
they hear
imagine
stuff
that.
like that.
I couldn't imagine that. I was like, is that really that same Rick B? That was. He's really saying.
Yeah, did you get the wrong guy on the show?
And then you stealing oil or gas or not paying for it. I was loving the stories, you guys' stories. I was loving it. It was a great show.
Well, because we get these we get these ideas about people.
Oh yeah. I built this persona of these guys.
People like the guys from New Way. They think like I have it all figured out. I'm like, dude, 3.5 years ago I was homeless and selling methamphetamines and robbing everyone.
Yeah, but I never stole the oil. I just never paid for the oil. I did steal several cases of butter and cheese on the way out of that.
Is that one of those deals like I never bought drugs, they just traded them for money?
It's close.
All right. Okay. I'm not picking my nose, I'm pointing at my brain. One of them deals?
It's close.
All right, okay. Yeah. It was great though. I'm glad you guys are back. I'm glad you guys are gonna be reoccurring.
I'm so stoked for this.
Yeah.
I'm so stoked to do all the steps on here. Should we?
And my ego got in the way of it too when I was at SNL. I was like, Yeah, we have them on the show. One of those deals. Yeah, they'll be on at least once a month moving forward. Yeah, I think it's that time.
Let's chop it up.
Chop it up.
I
All
was
right.
waiting for you to say it. I got confused.
Let's chop this up and get her going. Share this podcast with anyone you think could use a little taste of
Smash that like
recovery.
button.
Smash the like button. Share it. Smash it. Share it. Anyone you think that could benefit from a little healthy recovery talk.
My protege, one of my best friends, Brian, he calls me Mission Impossible guy. He just said that again on the comments. Mission Impossible guy. You remember last time you were
Yeah.
on? You said you were like the methed out Tom Cruise.
Yeah, crawling up through ceilings. And I like the
I told
show.
you that live on the air, and you laughed.
I like the show, the part where you acted like you just accidentally got, like it was a miscommunication when they caught the last day you were there trying to get out and the guy still let you out. I loved it. I loved it.
I thought it
like
was-
you're too drunk.
I thought it was funny because every time I got caught,
Yeah.
every time I got caught doing something shiesty when I was on meth too, I would pretend I was drunk also. So that resonated with me.
Shiesty, did you make up that word?
No,
Shiesty. Yeah, that's a common. Shiesty, sharsty. That's a good one. Well, yeah. So this week, yeah, let's chop this up and get her going.
so I'm gonna turn it over to you guys.
Yeah. Who are you guys? And tell us about the second step and how you guys want to present it.
Okay. My name's Rick. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Rick.
My name is Jesse. I'm an alcoholic.
Jesse.
See.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about step 2, which reads, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Oh boy, that was a rough deal. That was a rough one for me. You know, I spent most of my life up to AA as an atheist, trained as an atheist. I just was. I grew up in a family where my parents were communists. They were literally.
Real
They were-
communism?
Oh yeah. So I grew up with my dad's friend Joe driving in his lumber truck when I was 12 years old, getting my atheist and my communist training. So, you know, if you're a good communist, you're an atheist. And I don't want to do anything half-heartedly. Everything's done with full speed ahead. So,
Makes sense.
seriously, I mean, that's just the way it was for me. And
It was just all go.
huh?
It was all in.
All in, yeah. I'm not exactly unlike that today. Now, you can use that to either hurt yourself or help yourself. I'm not a fan of trying to squash self-will. I think the idea here is to redirect the will. Don't fight yourself. Redirect it into something that'll help you. 12-step work. That's where it started. But maybe Jesse wants to say something before I want to start with something here.
Well, I started from a very different angle, having been in a religious house, and it's funny how that did or didn't help. But I do remember at about somewhere around 12 or 14, although I stuck with this religious stuff, there was a switch there was kind of a decision I made. I think it was almost, I can remember it even maybe on the street when I to screw this stuff. This isn't going to work. I remember deciding that. But I didn't come at it from an atheist, seemingly.
You mean religion? You saw it isn't going to work? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, but that I stuck with it though, even after that.
See, I wasn't interested in that. I'm the guy who the Jehovah Witness had come to the door, and I'd say, come on in, we'll talk. And then we'd have a conversation, and these were kind, loving people coming to carry a message of hope and joy and love to a madman. And I was abusive, and I'm not proud of that, but I was abusive to these people. And I'd say, come on in. And then I'd start hammering on them, you know. And they'd be running down the block after about 10 minutes with me, seriously. It was not, I'm not proud of that at all. I was rude to them, and that's...
On a mission to be rude.
Right.
Oh yeah, I was absolutely abusive and rebellious in this area.
So no humor involved. You were really
No,
trying
I
to.
was I
Okay.
was a real ass, a jackass on this one. So, you know, I just couldn't, much like Bill, I couldn't fathom that there could be a loving, benign creator that could create a world like this. See, And Bill had the same problem. When you read his story, he talks the same way, that he had that same, but he was more of an agnostic. See, I don't understand agnostics. I figure they're lightweights. They just didn't have the guts to go after it. You know, that's
Yeah.
the way I used to think about it. You know,
Do you want to explain the difference between an atheist and an agnostic to the listeners?
the word agnostic in the dictionary, okay, it literally means, it was coined apparently by Aldous Huxley around the turn of the century into the, you know, from the 1900s to the or 1800s to the 1900s, and it means I don't know, not knowing, agnostic. It comes from the root word gnosis, which means knowing. Agnostic means I don't know. So the atheist just says I don't. It's nonsense. It's just nonsense, and that's kind of where I was at. You know, in the big book under We Agnostics, right about middle of the first paragraph, it says, if when you honestly want to find, if you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. Oh, I didn't like that idea at all. That, you know. He goes on, he says, to one who feels he is an atheist or agnostic, such an experience seems impossible. Oh, I assure you, that seemed impossible to me. I never thought I'd ever be able to come to believe. First of all, I'm sitting in meetings listening to people talk about God, and they're, you know, it might be a Christian, whoever, it might be variations of Christianity, it might be a Buddhist, a Hindu, whatever. And I'm sitting there thinking, there is no way I'm going to believe, or that I can. It's not even that I didn't want to. I just can't. If I don't see it, taste it, feel it, touch it, smell it, it is not real to me, period. Plain and simple, it doesn't exist. That's what I thought. That's where I was at, see? So, but to continue as he is means disaster, especially if he is an alcoholic of the hopeless variety.
What page is that on?
It's
Right
on
at the
page
beginning of chapter 4 on 44.
44.
Now this is a good one. To be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live on a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. Now, I want to tell you a story about something. I was in Mazatlan, Mexico last week, okay? Now, I've been going to Mazatlan for 33 years, since I've been sober, you know. My first year, I went down with my sponsor, Joseph, and there's AA meetings down there, and I met a guy in one of the meetings probably, I don't know, 30 years ago. His name was Mauricio. They called him Mauricio. He was an Irishman. And he was a character. I mean, he really was, everybody loved him. You know, the Irish are very lovable people. They're in your face all the time, but they're lovable people. I mean, they really are. I've been to Ireland, man. I'm telling you, they like to fight. There's an old Irish saying, is that a personal fight or can anybody get in? You know, and that's kind of the way it was in the AA meetings. I went to their 50th conference, AA conference,
Wow.
statewide or countrywide conference. With an Irishman I met in Mazatlan, a different guy, an older gentleman, and I'm telling you, it was when the war in Iraq broke out, and they saw it and they hate the British. You know, this was in Northern Ireland, and the Northern Irish don't like the British, and they knew the British were sending missiles in there and whatever. And we're in an AA conference in the, you know, they do everything in the pubs. It's in a, you know, in a pub setting. And my God, they're just hating. I mean, we're in an AA conference, and they're just pissed off. Man, oh man, oh man, it was interesting. It was an interesting experience. So, I love the Irish. I just love them because they're just lovable people to me. Well, and I'm not Irish. So anyway, I meet Morris in an AA meeting in Mexico, English-speaking meeting. Everybody loves Morris. We got along. Him and I just hit off. We were about the same age, and he was just a character, man. And I loved him. He was just fun to be around. Everybody loved Morris. Next year I went down there, he was drinking. Nobody seemed to be able to help him. They were scared, they were worried about him, freaked out. Next year when I went down, he was still out drinking, but he was living in a wealthy architect's house, okay? And he had rented him this apartment that overlooked the ocean. Now this is a beautiful evening. It's probably about, I don't know, maybe 8 o'clock at night. The moon is up on the ocean. He's got a place on the hill, on the edge of the cliff. And it's a little apartment, but it's nice. And it's just a beautiful night. We show up, me and another guy, and he knock on the door. This beautiful senorita opens the door. This is Morris's girlfriend, see? And she opens the door, and I don't know if she's living with him or what, but she's cooking and doing stuff, you know, and he's sitting at the kitchen table with his back to the ocean, and it's a small place. We come in, Francisco and I go in, and we sit down, and we're looking at him. Now the guys in AA wanted me to save him.
To go save him.
To fix him,
Yeah.
go get him sober. I was at a point in my sobriety where I'd stop that crap. And I didn't go there for that reason. They all wanted me to go for that reason, but that's not why I was there. And this wealthy Mexican who owned the property, he loved Morris and he wanted me to help him. That guy needed Al-Anon, you know, in a major
Right.
way. But he was a good man. So I went to see him, but not for that reason. So we walk in, and here he's sitting at the table, and I sit down at the little table. And we're sitting there, and we start to talk, and he says something to me. He says, you know, I'm really miserable. He says, I've got this beautiful senorita that I can't enjoy because he's an alcoholic. He's drinking. He's not completely drunk, but he's, you know, got a buzz going pretty good. He says, I got this beautiful place with this beautiful view. He says, I can't enjoy any of this stuff. So I remembered something. I used to go to a meeting above American Lighting on 54th and Nicollet, and there was a little Saturday meeting that had a booklet. It was called A Table Mate, and it was quotes out of the big book and different literature. Not all of it was AA stuff, but it was all good. It was done well. And there was a sentence in there which I said to Morris that night that I just remembered. I said, here, Morris, this is your alternative here. It says, here's your option if you're an alcoholic. Total abstinence or chronic alcoholism with all the handicaps and penalties that implies. And Morris looks up at me and he says, can I think about it? Can I think about it?
Can I think about it?
Yeah, he's still thinking about it. I don't know what become of him. This is probably 25
Was that the last time you
years.
saw him?
Huh?
Was that the last time you saw him?
No, I did see him once after that. He was drinking, but at a bar. But it just, you know, he couldn't do it. And when I read this sentence, it says, "To be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live on a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face." And that's exactly what he felt. It's
Right.
what he couldn't do it. See. Wow. But it isn't so difficult. About half of our original fellowship were exactly of that type. Now think about this. This is written in 1938, published in 39, right? The big book was, okay? AA's dated 1935. They had 3 to 4 years. Bill was the longest sober, about 4 years of sobriety when this thing was published. Now, they claimed to be 100, the first 100. Apparently, that was not true. I read somewhere that there was about 87 or 89 of them. I don't know if that's accurate. So they were lying about that, much like we would do.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
go
Yeah,
figure about
juice
a
it up
group
a
of
little.
alcoholics.
Exaggerated.
Was there even
Exaggerated.
3
That's,
women?
that's odd.
Was there really even 3 women?
No.
Yeah,
I doubt it.
I've heard this too, but
But anyway, okay.
juice it up a little.
So when they wrote the book, when they published it 4 years in, half of the fellowship, what they wrote in here, half of the fellowship were atheist or agnostic. So people think, well, I have to force myself to believe. I got to get a sponsor, or if you're the sponsor, you try and force feed spirituality to some guy.
Right.
You try and make him believe the way we think he should believe. And I got to tell you, I think that's a huge mistake.
Right. Especially
That's
if
an
you,
opinion.
especially if you're not buying
Yeah,
what
that
you're
is,
selling
that's
too.
an opinion.
Yeah. That's not in the
What'd you
book,
say,
that's
Ted?
my opinion.
Especially if what?
If you're not buying what you're selling, if you're selling to all your
Oh,
sponsors
yeah.
that they got to believe in Jesus Christ and they got to go to
Well,
the
did
Catholic,
you-
whatever, and you're not doing it yourself because you don't believe it, that's
So with what Ted said too, like, and the way you feel, have you always felt that way?
What's that?
That you don't think the statement you just made, that you don't agree with that.
I would not do that, and I'll tell you what my experience is, but I want to give Jesse some airtime here. But that's significant, I think, because I could not come to believe like other people believed, and there was no way that was going to happen for me. But I'll tell you more about how that did happen as we get into this.
And I guess my question was forcing that experience down someone's throat. If you don't believe it, how are you supposed to pass it if you can't believe the shit you're shoveling?
Right.
You know.
Well, look, let me just say this and then turn it over to Jesse, okay? Somebody asked me years ago how I came to believe, because she knew I was an atheist, and this is probably 20-some years, 25, 20 years ago. She's doing a workshop where they asked her to go out and ask people how they came to believe. Now, she knew I was an atheist, so she got into me right away because she knew something, you know. And I did not even think about this when she asked me. She just asked me the question. I didn't think about it. I didn't stop and even consider what I was going to say. What came out of my mouth was this. I took actions I didn't believe in, and I got results I couldn't deny.
Huh?
Okay? Now, what does that mean? We'll talk about that. You know.
that's cool stuff. That's what it
Well,
is.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I first heard that in the workshop, and from a different angle here. This is definitely from a different angle. I had a radical spiritual experience that got me here. I had visited AA a little while, and I couldn't do it, or I couldn't see it, or I just didn't work. And I had this. It's like a white light, like what Bill talks about. But at one point, I had tried various forms of Christianity. I had visited the Buddhists. I had visited the Islam people. And I got to tell you, I visited all black Baptist church. We don't care you're not a black guy. We don't care you're the only white. Well, not.
Damn.
Not technically. But we don't care you're the only white boy here, is what one of the gals said. And it was so loving to hear that. Now, but I tried a lot of different churches, okay?
You shopped.
Yeah. And I did experience that the people of all, and I went to the Native American church. They were loving too. But the thing that I didn't have was a process that I could take home and do that would affect me.
Right.
Like AA does. But I had an experience by myself that happened after a night of several $100s of drugs and alcohol, and at one more time I'm coming off of that stuff in the morning, and my mind and my body hurt so much I just can't bear it. And in a way, I threw out all of the training I had in a way. And I just went directly to God and I said this. I rolled out of the bed and I said, God, I have no idea what to do. But I meant it. I don't mean like what you say to a friend or a girlfriend sometimes when you sort of mean it. You ever do that?
You mean like
Are you trying to get me in trouble?
Like I love you. I sort of love you. That sort of thing. Yeah, I'm not talking about that.
From the heart, as deep
Well,
down as it can be
it's-
drawn from, you meant every word of what you're
Exactly.
asking
That's a
God.
good way to put it. A lot of this stuff is hard to put in words, but we're talking 100%,
All in.
nothing less,
Everything.
nothing less. I have no idea how to pray to you, and I have no idea what to do. And right at the end of that second statement, there's no one else around. I just left here. I think I just left. Seems like I left. It was a
Out of body.
that's a fair way to put it. And there was a yellow light. It's like I went into yellow lights, amber colored, then it was blue, then it was green, and then there's thoughts and ideas, and I heard this let go of everything and hold my hand. A little later I heard this go back to AA, but I was like I was traveling. I was traveling through what I don't even know.
Did I miss the part where did you say this was right after a night of about $700 in drugs?
Several hundred.
Several hundred.
It's probably more like 300 if you want to be.
Is
Well,
it
no,
the same
but that-
experience we talked about last?
Yes, I brought it up
I
last
didn't
week.
hear that. So you had the out of body through the light, and then you're being given ideas in your mind about maybe AA. What was?
Well, it was just the one thing in this adventure, if you will, that stayed was go back to AA. Well, then this traveling happened, and what I realized when I was moving, it seemed like I was moving sort of outward, and it was probably going inward though, but I guess it might be the same thing. And one of the ideas that came, I remembered, the peace is past your understanding. That was very helpful to me because I kept trying to understand everything. I kept trying to know everything. And then this thing just ended. And I fell asleep. I'm not sure how long, a couple of days, but I didn't fall back into any pain. I just slept like what I'd like to say, just like a happy dog, just laying there by the fireplace, just happy. But I was out. I mean, I was zonked. And then when I woke up, that was still fresh in my mind. And the first thing I remember seeing, I was blinking and I looked out of the bed. There's nothing left in the apartment. There's a rug, a bed, some broken glass tubes for smoking crack, vodka bottles and Coke bottles, and a few clothes. That's all that I have left. And I got up and I walked towards the back porch because there was dust in the air and the light was hitting the dust. It was so beautiful. I was just overwhelmed about it. And I wasn't really sure what was going on at all. What's this? And everything, the floor was beautiful. My
You're
hand,
feeling no pain, no withdrawals from the.
no. This is a couple of days later. My hand was, I was just.
Were you looking through new eyes, kind of?
That'd be fair to say. And then it's funny, what my very next thought, I'm up, walking around, looking around, and I don't even know who I am for a while. And then it's funny what my mind did. The very next thing my mind did was, I don't think I need to go to AA. Oh, really? That's the thought that came. How wrong. I have never been more wrong about anything.
But you're on such a euphoric type, right?
Exactly.
Is that why
exactly.
you're thinking, no,
exactly.
I don't need nothing.
Exactly. I don't need anything. If I can feel like this, I don't need anything. Well, then my mind started to try to remember what I was, and then somehow do I have a job? See, I've been fired from a lot of jobs. And what about and money? Of course, I spent about all my money again. I've done that hundreds of times out on binges. And then a day or two goes by, and that complete freedom just went away as my ideas piled up in my mind about what I got to do and where I got to go and what the hell to do and all that. That just piled up and that happy that I thought would never go away, it was diminishing by the hour. And I remembered to go to AA, and I went there. There's one guy at Saturday Night Live that I recognized, asked him to be my sponsor. He said, "Jesse, I didn't know you had a problem." I'm like, "Oh man, yeah." I've had a problem for a long time.
Oh man.
So is it kind of as reality set in thoughts, not reality, as your familiar thoughts started coming back,
That's
all
the
that
unreality.
that you
I was,
like that euphoria just it went one of these numbers like
well, Rick just nailed it. I was bringing back unreality. I had visited,
Anti-reality.
I had visited reality.
Alternative.
I
Right.
had visited reality. Now I'm coming back into unreality, and it's the joy is just diminishing, and it's not comfortable. It's not pleasant to taste that and then come back into this unreality, if you will.
So pretty soon you know exactly who you are.
Ah,
well, and then I imagine the brain's got to start. First, it's telling you I'm good if I feel this way, no AA, but then you start losing it. How can I get it back?
well, so I'm glad I followed through. I've been sober since that day.
Since you clapped your
That-
hands and said your real prayer.
That those two little sentences. Now, it hasn't all been easy. Thank God for AA. Thank God for AA. But the other thoughts that were coming, I've sponsored a lot of guys, and it might actually be easier for people if they're agnostic. So I welcome people. If they're agnostic, that's great. We'll just go through this book and we'll work the process. And you have your own experience.
Right.
And that's the other thought that hit me. We're talking about agnostics or atheists. I've really seen that to not be from my experience of working with people, I've seen that's not a problem. I think sometimes I've had more problem getting rid of my old ideas about spirituality or religion, getting rid of my old ideas about that. Thank God the experiences I've had in AA keep helping me.
Right.
They keep helping me get tuned up, change my mind. So,
Two sentences got you to a place that you'd never been before. Do you think it was what you said or just was that a moment of, I always get stuck on stuff like that moment before you take that drink again and relapse, or that moment where something like that life-changing happened? I always want to pick stuff like that apart, and why? Sometimes
no,
what's the
I don't.
point?
I don't mind this. I think this is one of the greatest things about AA is to have these kind of conversations.
Yeah,
I mean,
Right.
this
Hence
is
the
one
show.
one of the things I just love about it. But I have no idea how to pray, and I have no idea what to do, and my mind opened. See, here's some other thoughts that came a minute ago. Another problem that I have is I got a lot of A's in school. I mean, almost exclusively. So I think that my mind.
was telling, I know this.
I think my
I
mind.
got exclusively F's.
I know
You guys are a perfect match.
exactly. So
Meet in
there's
the middle with some C's.
well, we're coming at this from two very different.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good perspective, and it makes you guys a good
Well, it
team,
may.
I think.
Yeah, it may. But I had this heavy reliance on my own intellect, which is really atheism. That's might be a little shocking to hear, but that's what I think is that exclusively depending on my own old ideas, if you will, or my own intellect was really the barrier. How could I get A's in so many things and such, and be able to make so many things and such, and have so much difficulty in life? Oh, well, the steps have helped and continue to help me see what the real problems are within me.
I got an F in life.
I got an F in life.
Yeah. Oh.
Got an
What-
F in life.
In life.
F in life.
life.
Well, and I see that kind of like both sides of something to that extent is like our minds can be sometimes my biggest enemy or my biggest trickster in my life. You go through your adolescence doing well, what society says, you're passing math with the best marks and history and all this. And then life shows up and it's time to be an adult, what have you. And your head tells you, I know what's going on. And then you find yourself with a couple pair of jeans left and empty crack pipes and
Right.
F in life.
How could this possibly happen?
And then on the flip side, I sit and ask myself, it's not really the flip of that, but I always share about when you first try to get, or when you're supposed to make this decision to get clean or to get sober. How do you do that with the sick brain? How does the sick brain make a good choice?
Well, that's a good question because
Desperation.
well, it's
A good whooping.
yeah.
Yeah.
A good bottom or a moment of lucidity, or I don't know.
I had to die twice.
I guess, yeah, it's everyone's.
I got my ass kicked. And even then, after I said I was done, after I died twice, I still took a month to get my affairs in order and almost died a couple more times. So
I just have a question. I don't know why. One guy said, "Who cares about the why, Tim? Just make the change."
No, it's okay. It stimulates the conversation.
Yeah.
It
It's
really
always-
doesn't bother me.
it's always interesting to hear about the why. I don't think the why matters, but it's always interesting to hear.
Well,
It's
it
almost
can
like history.
spark the conversation.
Learn from it.
It can spark the conversation, but the bottom is wherever really a person, I think,
Digging.
stops digging.
Right.
Well, and then that's the other thing is to hand in hand with that statement is they told me stick with the winners or find an
That's
earth.
insane, by the way.
That's
Yeah.
not really my experience.
But what the hell do I know about a winner when I'm 6
Well,
days sober? My head's still
What's
I-
even worse is if Bill Wilson were to do that, none of us would be here.
right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
How about hang with the losers like I was, and then see if we can find some inspiration together, read the
yeah.
book together. All of a sudden, you end up with a friend that
Yeah.
is also a felon.
And isn't that in a way how this thing got started? A couple
Sure
of
it is.
fucking drunks trying to stop drinking
Sure it
and realize,
is.
hey, it's together we can.
Sure
What
it
isn't that basically? If I'm not mistaken, is I'm telling you my story of how bad it really was. You're telling me your story before you know it. We got 4 days under our belt, and
Sure
Well,
it is.
Bill was telling him what he did and how he failed, and then what he did to get beyond it. When he met Dr. Bob.
yeah.
He hadn't drank for quite a few months,
But
5-6 months.
the lead into that story is just great, and it's really repeated many times in my life. So Bill had this period of sobriety. It was on the heels of telling his wife, though, "Oh, I don't think I've done anyone any good. I don't think any of my peeps are sober." And she smiled at him and said, "Bill, I know one guy that's sober that never was able to be sober before.
You.
You." And then he went and tried to do a business deal, and the business deal didn't work out. That's very disappointing.
Right.
Very disappointing. And he remembered those ideas, not unlike how I remembered that go to AA idea when I really didn't want to. He remembered that situation, if I have the story right. Hey, that works. He didn't go to an AA directory. There weren't any. He didn't call his AA buddy and say, "Hey, is there another AA guy in town I can call?" None of that existed.
Yeah.
So he went down the phone book, I think, as the church
That's what it was.
directory. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was the last name when he finally got
This
something
is-
to do.
It wasn't.
This
until-
was like
Yeah.
12 or 15 different calls in a phone booth because he knew that if he could talk to another alcoholic, see if he could be helpful, that would fix him up. That would heal him.
And I only read that once, so correct me if I'm wrong or whatever. Wasn't it? And it wasn't whoever answered the phone. It wasn't who he ended up speaking with. Wasn't it a clergy secretary?
at
Or,
a ho-
Directed
to a-
woman.
Yes.
a hospital.
Dr. Bob.
that's
Yeah.
what it was.
He
Yeah.
ended up at a hospital, and they said, "Sure, we got a winner for you. You can come down and talk to him." A real corker, I think. they said.
Yeah.
Real corker.
The way the pieces fell in.
Well, there's a thing about, and it's really back to this question of one of your whys in that good mix of whys. Am I willing to go to any length is a line out of the big book.
Right.
Am I willing to go to any length? Am I willing to not do what I thought I was going to do today and then go with that which really works?
That was the
So-
first thing my sponsor asked me when I asked him. The sponsor said, "You willing to go to any lengths for this recovery?" Yep. All right, let's get started.
Well, if somebody told me I had to believe in God,
That
I'd have walked.
Right.
I mean, this sentence, to be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live on a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face.
It sums it up.
But he says, but it isn't so difficult. About half our original fellowship, we're of exactly
exactly
that
that
type.
type. Yeah.
At first, some of us tried to avoid the issue. Of course, I tried to avoid the issue too.
Right.
Hoping against hope, we were not true alcoholics. I knew I was an alcoholic. That was not an issue for me. But after a while, we had to face the fact that we must find a spiritual basis of life, or else. I was not interested in that.
So how do you get past that?
No, I'll tell you.
All right. Okay.
He says, perhaps it's going to be that way with you, but cheer up. Something like half of us thought we were atheists or agnostics. Our experience shows you need not be disconcerted. So if a mere code of morals, this is what I felt Christians were always trying to get me to do, is to believe in what they believe, their code of morals. Or a better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. Well, I wouldn't have, because I had none of that. But we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us, no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral.
Yeah, that's what I kept trying. These various codes, if you will. It did not work.
Listen to this, because this is not what I was interested in. He says, we could wish to be moral. We could wish to be philosophically comforted. In fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly. This is what happened to me. I was solving my problems. If you're an atheist, you're going to solve your problems. No question, because there's nobody else to solve them. You don't trust other people because you know they're jackasses.
It's me, myself, and I.
Yeah. So I'm not interested in, what other people are telling me, but I got this willpower going. I got this complete reliance on self. And I
Bonded yourself.
It was absolute reliance on self. But every time at the end of my using, every time I went to fix a problem, it got worse. I fixed my relationship with Pam and the kids. 11-year relationship. She leaves. Wow, that worked well. Fixing my finances. I got an antique plumbing fixture store. I'm moving that around town because I can't pay the rent. This is a major move, man.
Yeah,
I mean, we're talking
plumbing,
dozens of clawfoot bathtubs, radiators for houses.
Cast iron, everything.
Everything's heavy, it's fragile. The toilet, I got hundreds of toilets. I'm not
It's not an easy
exaggerating
move.
this. I had hundreds of pedestal sinks and commercial toilets, all this stuff. Man, and I moved that stuff 3 times. I got to such a bottom, I ended up having to auction it off when I got sober. So I'm trying to fix the business. I can't make that work. I've got a property. I've got a duplex. I had another piece of property. I lost the duplex that I was living in, or triplex, in a foreclosure. Every time I fixed a problem, it got worse. It didn't get better. I'm telling you, I became afraid of myself. I really became afraid to deal with life at any level.
Every step you took, you tripped.
Yep, that's right. It got worse. It wasn't even a trip. It was a disaster. So our human resources, as marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly.
Mm-hmm.
Then he says, lack of power. That was our dilemma. Well, I could agree to that. I could not seem to solve it. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how were we to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. That means we have written a book which we believe to be spiritual as well as moral. So he makes a distinction here between spiritual as well. It's interesting, isn't it? And it means, of course, that we are going to talk about God. Here, difficulty arises with agnostics. You bet it does. Many times we talk to a new man and watch his hope rise as we discuss his alcoholic problems and explain our fellowship, but his face falls when we speak of spiritual matters, especially when we mention God, for we have reopened a subject which our man thought he had neatly evaded or entirely ignored. We know how he feels. Okay. So
Would you say when someone says, what exactly is this book about, would you say the base of it is this paragraph?
Yeah.
'Cause it says right there, well,
Yeah, I would.
that's exactly what this book is about. Its main objective is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your
Now,
problems.
it sounds like then you're gonna read about this
Yeah, no.
and learn something,
They
but that's not
sprinkle
what
a
this
little.
is.
Yeah, no.
That's not what this is. This is not learning. This is unlearning. It's not, I gotta tell you, I fell into the trap like Jesse did of trying to figure things out. I could not figure out God. I couldn't understand it. I didn't even like the word. I hated the Christians. I had a major problem with this.
So much
So-
a resentment, or beyond that. I just didn't
I'm
like.
actively, aggressively attacking them.
Yeah, you just shared about it.
Yeah.
Right.
You shared about it. Yeah.
I mean, I was mean-spirited with it. I'd be in parties and stuff, kids my age, teenage years.
Seek out that
I got
that
all
conversation.
the communist training. I got all the religious crap that I'm against, and I got all the arguments against it because I got people 40 years older than me giving me
Yeah,
the ammunition
right.
on this one, man. So I tell you, I got a head full of craziness. I'm going into the parties. I'm aggressive against capitalism because I'm a communist. I'm aggressive against our country, which is coming out of World War II and is excited about capitalism, and it's the only thing that works in the world at that point. Nothing else was functioning at all. My God, this country stepped up and took care of everybody else,
Yeah.
So all these kids are actively looking at capitalism, excited about life, and here comes Mr. Good Guy along, putting everything down, hate the corporation, hate everybody, gotta hate, unconditional hate.
Yeah.
Unconditional hate, man. Wow, I was a popular fellow, I can tell you that.
Gosh.
And then
No.
once in a while,
Okay.
and what's even worse is I'd be spewing this crap, 18, 19 years old at a party with a bunch of people, and I'm spewing this crap, and once in a while somebody would say, hey, what the hell are you talking about there? What do you mean by that? And I go, oh, geez, they weren't my ideas. I was brainwashed. I picked up a
shit.
bunch of crap that wasn't my ideas, and I was ready to die for these things, and it had nothing to do what I understood. They were just ideas from other people. Well, I had to examine that when I got sober. What is it that I believe? Not what Joe Stern believed, the guy who owned the lumber yard, not what my dad believed, but what do I actually believe? Then I found out I didn't even believe a lot of the stuff I was saying. Ooh, when somebody pulls your pants down in front of a group like that, hey, what do you mean by that? What are you talking? And you don't have an answer because you didn't formulate the idea.
You're just regurgitating what you heard.
Good indication you're brainwashed. Really.
Nice.
A perfect indication that you're brainwashed. When you get pissed off because it's not your idea. You picked it up from somebody else. And you don't have an answer. You can't formulate it, see? Oh yeah, that's what I got caught with. I got caught with that in sobriety.
It happens still today all the time, though.
Well,
I
don't
mean,
do that.
no, I mean not me. I mean, I feel I see it a lot with this social media nowadays. It's just
That's a great example.
Right.
someone hearing that one quote and then they sit and regurgitate it
Repeat it, and they don't even know what the basis of it is,
kinda-
or if it's even true.
It's kind of what the cancel culture is fucking based on.
Well, it's you're right. The
Well,
way you word it is
you know how
spot
you know
on.
it's BS? Anonymous sources said.
Yeah. Anonymous.
Right.
In other words, some little birdie just made that crap up and laid it on me, and I'm repeating it.
So
But I think you hit it really well about, it's what do you believe, not what did you hear? Because that's basically the two differences
I
there.
don't care if this is religion that's been fed to you.
No.
Well, because
See, I've had to back off a lot of that. The experiences I have had working the steps and working with others moved me into having experiences that I was trying to have through theories and concepts of reading religious material.
Right.
The experiences I've had in AA caused that to happen.
And that's it right there, I think.
I'll give you a little quote I picked up from a guy named Anthony DeMello, a Jesuit priest. Okay, I started reading about the mystics, guys, when I got sober, because I was trying to understand and figure out God. It didn't necessarily help. I'm not against that. I'm glad I did it because I educated myself
Right.
in a way, and I started to see things that all the mystics, when I say a mystic, we're talking about the guys on the edge, not the mainstream religious people. I'm talking about the guys who are looked at as the lunatics, whether they're Hindus, Buddhists, Christians.
out.
These guys are, Jesus was one of them, okay? You gotta understand, the religious people nailed him up, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
That's right.
Crucified him,
Yeah,
put
well, that's right.
spikes around his head.
So,
He was kind of revolutionary when he came
Very
out
much
during his,
so.
during his time. He
one
was
of the
essentially flipping the bird to Caesar too.
Right.
here's a quote from, now he didn't make this up. He put a bunch of quotes in a book, I think it was called 1 Minute Nonsense or 1 Minute Wisdom, then another one was 1 Minute Nonsense. But nevertheless, he had a bunch of these books with little quotes, little things you'd read, maybe a paragraph, and then you think about it during
The
day.
Jesuit priest you're talking about?
Yeah,
Okay.
Anthony DeMello, his best book was Awareness,
Yeah.
which is just a phenomenal spiritual book. But anyway, here's what he says. This is the quote. Now think about this one. Sincerity is not enough. What we need is honesty. So the student says to the guru, I think it was a guru in this case, what's the difference? And the man says, honesty is a never-ending openness to the facts. Sincerity is believing one's own propaganda.
Oh,
You can be very sincere
Shit.
and full of crap.
That's true.
Understand?
Are you talking about politics right now, or are you talking
about
about
anything,
Anything.
anything,
I know, I was
any
being kind of a
subject.
smart
Well,
ass.
politics is a perfect platform for that. But
Yeah, you can be passionate until the cows
it's
come
very
home, but might be bullshit.
sincere. You can
Right.
get the tone just right to show how sincere you are about it, and be full of crap.
Look, that's a way of examining
He's not
yourself.
wrong.
See, now when I got sober, I had to start to look at what is it that I actually believe. Now, you got anything, just because I want to read
No,
something, then I'm going to share some.
Read
couple
that.
things.
Go ahead.
Okay, so a mere code of ethics, that sort of thing, isn't going to do it. And then in chapter 5, Bill says something very similar. He says,
Where'd you go to?
I'm on page 62 now. And he's talking about we have to be honest with ourselves, and that selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of our troubles. But then in the middle of the paragraph where it says, so our troubles we think are basically of our own making. Okay, I'm reading down, I might as well read it. They arise out of ourselves. Our troubles we think are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot.
Though he usually doesn't think so. This is one of my
Right.
favorite lines. Though he usually doesn't think so. No, it's the other guys causing the trouble.
So it's
Right.
above everything. We alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. God makes that possible. Now, then he says, and there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Now, think about that sentence. Getting rid of self. Ooh, you ever hear anybody talk about that sentence in a meeting? I never have, man. Nobody
Bondage
wants-
itself.
What if that's the main point of the whole process?
Yeah.
Right.
But he's talking about entirely get rid of self, meaning what? Your ego. Your ego self. We're not talking about your spiritual nature. So there's two natures here. One is of the spirit, and one is of the flesh, the Christians would say. Right? Yeah. That's what he's talking about here. Okay? Now then he says, many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. I got to tell you guys, these guys were decent people, and then they lost it through their drinking. So it was rehabilitation. That's not what this has been for me. This hasn't been rehabilitation. This has been habilitation.
Right.
Why do, no, seriously.
Habilitation.
Yeah, how can
not
you be
rehabilitation.
rehabilitated if you've never been?
But I was
Habilitated.
never,
Oh, you
I've
weren't
never-
going back to a zero because you weren't. I see what you're
I
saying.
never really learned how to live. See, so I grew up in a sense in AA because of, with the principles. But these guys, many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore. Yeah, they had moral and philosophical convictions. I did too. But we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. I wish I could say that I would have liked to, but I didn't give a damn.
Right.
Now, I'm telling you, I'm not proud of that. That is really real close to being a sociopath.
No, but that might be easier because I had those too. I had these ideas that if I could build this company and maybe that trucking company and this manufacturing company, and well, they're very grandiose, you can hear already. Everybody will come out ahead.
See, he's a good guy. I'm not.
See, there's a very big difference in that. So I'm always covering my selfishness with good intentions in my mind.
Right.
Because it never
I get that.
works out that way.
Well, it sounds like
No.
wishing it.
What's that?
It never works out that way.
No, it doesn't. But in my mind is where the root of the problem is, just like what we just read. So our problems we think are basically of our own making. I can be so delusional on good intentions that I will not look at the facts.
Now, I'm telling you, with me, and I mean this very sincerely, it's not something to be proud of, but it's true. I did have this awareness, which I think is good. I knew when I was very young that I was self-serving. Now, I think most people, I don't know if you have it to that degree that I had it. I knew whenever I was doing something that I wanted something. There was a game going. And I was not delusional on this.
You knew.
I knew I was self-serving. So when I came into AA, I was very aware of how self-serving I was. The problem I had is I didn't give a damn.
You didn't see a problem with it.
I saw a problem with it only because I might not get what I want. Okay?
Still
But I didn't-
self-serving.
Yeah, it was just purely self-serving. Now, this is a real problem because I really didn't give a damn. And that was based in atheism. I just ran into a guy in Mexico on this trip who is the same way with 28 years of sobriety.
Still,
What does
you're
that
saying?
look like?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I'll tell you, but you wanted to say something here?
Well, it's just this whole thing of thinking that you're good or that you have good intentions. So
Yeah, I didn't.
I have to peel that back first in my mind through a revelation or through an awareness that I'm really self-seeking, even when I'm trying to be good.
is that where there's
I
the,
struggled with that. It's
Is-
one of the things that kept me from staying sober.
oh, is
for
that where the
many
problem
years.
lies? Is you are pretty sure, hey, I know I'm good-hearted. I know I'm being
Even
my
when
mind's
I'm
in the right
using, I'm
place.
helping people. I used
you
to say
believe
that
it.
shit.
That's the guise. That's the delusion that's very difficult to get over or to get some awareness on or to maintain some awareness on, that I'm doing something that's good for the other.
Right.
Well, if I don't think I'm being selfish, if I look down in my mind a bit, which is a personal adventure, I'm really trying to get something even when I'm trying to be good. That's the line that we didn't read, but it's right out of chapter 5.
It took
That's
me a
the
while
story
to-
of me.
Right. It took me a while to get there. Like,
Well, that's an ongoing
He had
adventure.
to back the good guy crap out before he could get to where I was at.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean I'm ahead of him. What's sad is I didn't give a damn. I knew it and I didn't care.
he gave a damn.
Well,
Right.
this is an atheist position. It really is.
Ah.
Because you don't care. I'll tell you why you don't care. You have no empathy for others because you don't feel connected to others.
okay.
When you're an atheist, you separate yourself apart from others and you don't feel others' pain. One of the first things that happens in AA is you feel another man's pain and you want to help. Okay? It's one of the first things we do. We understand his position. When you're an atheist, you
Right.
don't have that. At least the ones I've known, and I can speak from absolute experience. Now, I just had this experience with a guy in Mazatlan, 28 years sober, and Jesse and I are talking. He's from Canada, and we're talking about the truckers and all this stuff. And this guy's retired. He's got money coming in. He works for the government in different fashions.
A couple different ways.
Couple different ways. Had not a lot of money probably coming in, but he's got some money coming in where he doesn't have to work. He's completely self-sufficient still, you understand? Not really. He's dependent on the government, see? So he's not self-sufficient, but he feels that way.
Right.
And we're talking, and he cannot identify, right, Jesse? He couldn't identify with the plight of these truckers and these people, see?
No, it was interesting because right in the middle of this conversation, and this is going on. It's a big activity that's happening. These guys are fed up. They're just workers, right? They're working class guys with their trucks. Right in the middle of this conversation, he won't even participate in the conversation because of the reasons I think that Rick just laid out. He pulls his phone out and starts showing pictures of his bus. And he's
Just
got
disconnected.
he's got a camper bus. It's just right in the middle of this conversation.
Look, I just had a dose of it of myself from years earlier.
Right.
Because when you are an atheist, and he still is.
And you chalk that up to being atheist. Them
Watch what he's
actions.
got to say here.
He has no compassion. Now, he has no compassion. He had no identification with others.
Connection.
There's no connection because when you're an atheist, you separate yourself from everything. When you're connected spiritually, you're coming together with everyone. And you feel the separateness. And I think that's why I didn't give a damn, even though I had moral convictions and things. I didn't give a damn to even live up to them because I didn't feel the pain of anybody else. I only felt my own.
So if you'd harm someone, would you feel bad about it?
I don't know. I don't know that I would.
I know I'm taking a leap here, but like,
I might not have. But one other thing I just want to say,
Yeah.
because this was interesting, because it was another old timer there when we were talking at breakfast that time, and they like each other a lot, and I like them both too. I don't have this isn't an indictment. Trust me.
you
It's
got
just
to
a report,
you
guys.
got to hear
It's
that.
a report, okay? But I identified with him because I was like this. I understand this really well. Well, he's talking about how he bought a car for his girlfriend, this younger Mexican gal.
Senorita.
He did all these things for her and all this stuff. And then after that conversation, I was walking with the other guy, and the guy was telling me what a big heart he had. What a big heart, because he did so much for this woman.
This is a
Think
perfect.
about
I don't know what he did it
Think
for.
about this.
Yeah.
Is it not self-serving?
Yeah,
Is it not what I just said to you a little bit ago about myself? I was self-serving. I wanted what I wanted, and that was my motive for things. See, so I got a dose of this. It was interesting to see it play because the older guy was sober longer. I mean, 35 years or 40 years or something. But he thought of him as he had a big heart. But when him and I were talking, I didn't see that in him.
But
I
he saw that. You came,
self-serving.
your background,
Well,
your history
this
was
is-
able to
Right
see
there.
that.
That's
Yeah.
right.
This is often the disguise. See.
So how did you see it?
Well, I saw that he was.
The same way Jesse saw it?
Rick.
Or Rick,
That
sorry.
was Jesse, boss.
I know.
Yeah, I know you know.
It was
I was just
It was
messing with
really
you.
something to watch because it's almost like being in the middle of the movie and the movie's playing and you're seeing this go on a kind of off-stage point of view. That's
Right.
what was happening. And what he said is very accurate. The older guy mistook, for whatever reason, like we look up in inventory, mistakes. He mistook all this so-called good deeds. The guy was trying to just line a senorita up the way he wanted her to be.
That's right.
I could see that clear.
Again,
I-
it's not an indictment here.
You
It's
got to
what
hear
people
that.
do.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think it was just age? Or, I mean, we don't need to pick it apart, but
No,
the older
what-
guy, why you two picked it up?
This is
Inventory.
yeah. This is what we're
Inventory
talking
holds
about.
me up to my own crap.
And then you can see it in others.
And I don't have to fix it out there. I can still like this guy, and I don't have to dislike him. I understand him.
Okay.
I don't dislike him at all.
You
Yeah.
guys
know
made
the
that
game.
clear. No, just
Yeah, but
reporting
the-
on a story.
Right. These are illustrations of the ideas that we're bringing up because they're really kind of hard to bring up if you leave them just as concepts.
And what does any of this have to do with the second step?
Oh.
When you're an atheist, you have no sense of others. You don't feel it. The spirituality, when it grows, you start to have a sense of communion with
Connection.
others, connection to others. Without that, look at our culture. It's becoming more secular. What's happening? More separate, right?
Right. And there's no connection, and
There's a thought that
everyone's fucking disposable. I mean, yeah,
Right.
it's
Don't care about the next guy. I've got mine. I've got a job. Or he has income coming in, so he doesn't have to worry about what
who,
these guys
who,
are
who
doing.
cares about all those truckers and all those
Right.
tradesmen and who
Yeah,
cares?
Let's cancel
I
this
got
guy.
my
Who
30
cares
rolls of
if he
toilet
can
paper. I don't
eat
care
or
if you
can't
guys
eat?
Right.
So it doesn't
right.
matter whether you like the truckers
Yeah.
or dislike the truckers. That's not the point of this.
No.
No.
The point is literally, that's what atheism did to me. And I saw it. I saw it major league one more time right in front of my face. I got along with him great. I didn't hate him. I didn't dislike him. I didn't try and change him. We just talked. We had fun. We had
It
a lot
was
of fun.
really it was exciting to see this stuff playing out live right in the middle of this movie. Oh, that's what that looks like. Here's one that just came to my mind about the good guy. At one point, I had a shop, and I was making cabinets much like that one over there, a little different,
Like a hutch.
something like that. Nice oak, had electronics in it. They were cool. They were cool for a little company. And at one point, they weren't paying me on time, and that lapsed and lapsed. You know what the good guy thought would probably work? If I just tied the main guy up to a tree for, well, maybe a couple days. See,
Put honey on him or what?
just to let him think about getting me paid. So underneath those layers of what appear to be a good guy, that's phony.
Right.
That's just phony. Underneath those layers, that good guy can just snap.
What?
Just snap. It could snap in a little situation. You could argue with someone. You could get mean,
Right.
or you could really get.
Ugly.
You could get.
Well,
To
that's
be,
what
you
I
could
get.
get murderous.
I was kind of going down
True
that path
story.
with Jesse on that, or on Rick. Geez, I keep on Rick about this, and I know I was making a leap, but now this goes to what you're saying is, you're a good guy, but then you snap and you want time to a tree. Would you feel bad about doing it after the fact?
If I look back in my mind at the point, I didn't care.
You wouldn't have cared.
Right.
No,
That
I
makes
wouldn't have because he owed me money.
That
And
justified it.
that was legit. That was true.
Then there.
But now I've inventoried this and seen all of the lead ups and how I set myself up
Your
for that.
part.
But that's because my mistakes.
Or your
Don't
mistakes.
forget, it's my mistakes. We're never looking for our part, or we'll never find anything.
Yeah, I haven't heard it that way. I haven't.
That's all right. But the book really doesn't have that in it anywhere. In the book, does it say anything about a part? It's always, what are my mistakes in this situation?
Right.
But I've actually talked to this guy. It was funny because that came up. Someone was talking about going back and making amends because it says to all people that we've harmed, unless to do so would injure them or others. And I went back somewhere around a year ago, and I called the guy that I wanted to tie to a tree. Now, I sledgehammered those cabinets. I didn't give him any of the cabinets.
Now, this is a guy with a lot of spiritual reading and stuff, right?
The good guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The good guy.
Yeah, under the surface of that,
Unconditional hate.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
brutal.
So
It's,
where's the difference?
well,
You know?
I had
There's
an-
none.
Concepts.
it's
Concept.
just
Concept.
concepts or pretense or phoniness. That's the difference.
I'm just going in my mind about a story I told myself where I was a good guy in my last using, and so like I let a bunch of homeless people stay with me. So I'm not a bad guy, and I wasn't hurting people in my youth when I was selling and stealing and doing mess stuff. But I had all these homeless guys staying with me. Now, that sounds nice enough.
Very spiritual.
But the part I leave out and didn't even realize is, you know why these guys were staying with me. So when we got busted,
You had someone to
I had
take the fall.
accomplices.
Oh,
So
I didn't even know I was doing that.
Well, see,
so
this
the
is-
girlfriend's house who was in jail when all her shit was destroyed, it was their fault. And let alone the fact that I'm fucking so lonely, I needed people.
Oh, it's what you're telling yourself. Like Rick
Yeah,
said
but
that. Rick
I'm
shared
a
that
great
before.
guy. And
He was sure that guy took that money. You were positive.
and the other stuff I could use them for, like, so like it was not that I was a great guy. It was that I used
But at
people
the
and
time,
I
you're
needed
telling
things,
yourself,
yeah.
"Hey, I'm a good guy.
It took
I'm
me
letting
it
the
took me a
homeless
year and a
stay
half
here."
to figure that out.
Well, that's good, man. It didn't take you 25 years.
But you're right. Concepts. You're telling yourself. Well, that's a different scenario, though. You were sure this guy took your money.
Right.
You were 100% sure until you found it.
Right.
Yeah, until I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So we got a listener that's been struggling, and I kind of wanted to read his comment and see if have Jesse and Rick weigh in on this. Do you want to read it, or you want me to read it? You know what I'm talking about, right?
I believe it's about the driving. I'm
And
not.
it says, I hate the thoughts that don't stop everything bringing me down. Every time I try to get out of this hole, I feel like it's just a muddy wall and it's only getting more wet. I almost feel like I'm drowning and I don't know how to fully explain it, but I just don't like the feelings I'm having at all. What would you say to
No,
someone
is he sober?
I think he's going in and out of being sober, and he's in and out of a relationship that, and he's sober. So he just got out of a relationship. He's been talking to the three of us all week, and we just keep telling him to keep reaching out and keep talking to people. But
I don't have any answers for anyone. I don't here. I can tell you what I did.
There you go.
There you
Let's
go.
hear it.
How did I get sober? And well, here, let me just share this. Okay, now I don't know if this is relevant or not. I don't really can't tell you. But here's what it says in step 2 of the 12 and 12. Now this is me. It says, let's look first at the case of the one who says he won't believe, the belligerent one. That was me.
Kind of close
The
to home there.
belligerent
Yeah.
one. Okay. He is in a state of mind which can be described only as savage. His whole philosophy of life, in which he is so glorified, is threatened. It's bad enough, he thinks, to admit alcohol has him down for keeps. But now, still smarting from that admission, he is faced with something really impossible. How he does cherish the thought that man, risen so majestically from a single cell in the primordial ooze, is the spearhead of evolution and therefore the only God that this universe knows. Must he renounce all this to save himself? This is exactly where I was at. When Bill wrote this, he was in depression. It was an 11-year deal, that depression. So how do you come to believe? What happens with that? What do you do to get to a point? Because I didn't think it was ever going to happen for me. Now, I've told this story in here before at another step thing we were doing, but I'll share because it's how it was a start for me. Now, I'm reading the big book back then, and I can't make sense of it. I'm reading the chapter to the agnostic. It's not that I don't want to believe, it's that I can't, because I can't accept the premises of a loving, benign God making this world and all the chaos and the trouble. And my God, if seems to me that would be the devil, not God.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay. So that's where I was at. So I'm in a treatment center, and I just and this is on the heels of the Social Security office thing. Everything I'm fixing is getting worse. I just spent 2.5 days hiding in the ceiling of the Social Security office from the police because I was burglarizing the place, and that's another story altogether. But that's what happened. I had 2.5 days hiding in that ceiling to think about what a lovely life I had going. Well, I got out of there without going to jail. I was seen leaving. I was very worried about all that, and I was at the end. I was doing a lot of crystal meth back then, and trying to stay awake and solve my problems, trying to fix everything. And you can't do any of it when you're drunk. So,
hell yeah,
so
been
I
there.
switched addiction. Yeah, I found out, you can get over alcohol by taking crystal meth. Never
I always
again.
I always love that because I did it backwards.
Yeah, but I was physically addicted to alcohol, and I was having a lot of problems with the withdrawals. So it was a major problem for me. Alcohol was physically. but I wasn't at a
You could
bottom
die from
emotionally,
it.
so I had to get there emotionally. Well, I did with the crystal. 7 years of it, but I got there. So I go into this treatment center, really hiding out from the police because I was seen leaving the Social Security office, and I had some other legal problems going, where the cops were at that store that I had. Guys were trafficking heroin from Mexico, cocaine and speed from the West Coast, and they were selling it through my store. So back in '87, they had the whole Twin Cities area under their thumb with heroin, brown tar, and they were supplying the whole thing, and it was just. And then the crystal, the meth, and the cocaine. It wasn't crack. They were freebasing back then, or shooting it. See, so all these people are hanging around my store. There's lots of trouble. It looks like I might go to jail for a number of different things I was doing, but the Social Security office got my attention. So I could not even get high anymore. I went into a treatment center because I couldn't feel good no matter what I did. I came off 7 years of crystal meth. I had bags. A buddy of mine his buddy was killed coming out of his North Minneapolis apartment. He was hooked to a meth lab that exploded in the 80s in Kentucky, and it was tied to organized crime here. And the BCA, the FBI, it was real hot in town. And this guy gave Bill, this friend of mine, all these drugs, bags of Tuinol, which was Seconal, and Amobarbitol, which is a hypnotic sedative. It was a mixture. Tuinol is a mixture of that. They were really strong, man. These were downers.
Phenobarbital or whatever.
No, this was a different animal, you know. And I had bags of Valium, blue Valium. I had Ativan. I had pure codeine, not acetaminophen and codeine, pure codeine. And I'm taking this stuff and I'm going up, down, sideways. I am addicted to all this stuff. I go into this treatment center after being in withdrawal for about a week on the streets. Pam did not want me around after that Social Security thing, you know. And she's screaming at me, and she's got the kid. She wants me out of her place. And I went into a treatment center, and I spent 3 weeks going through withdrawals. The Valium's about a month-long deal.
Yeah.
The codeine comes out in about, I'd say maybe 3-4 days.
Yeah.
Okay, the barbiturates, same kind of thing.
Isn't
But
a
the-
big word like seizures and all this
Oh,
and
this
that?
is,
I mean,
I'm
that's a
telling
big
you,
worry.
I'm bouncing off walls for 30 days, you know, a week on the streets, now 3 weeks in this treatment center. I'm finally over all of this. Now you ask, how does a guy like me come to believe? This did not convert me, but I had this experience. I'm laying in bed, and I'm thinking about how horrible my life is. It looks like I'm gonna go to prison on a federal thing with the Social Security office. I got fingerprints all over the place. I am absolutely devastated by my life, and I couldn't take it anymore, and I said, I'll do anything. I'm 35 years old. I'll do anything not to live this way anymore.
Right.
And I meant I'll do anything. And then all of a sudden, bang, like this, rushes start coming in through the top of my head, electricity. In the top of my head, down through my feet, waves of electricity is flying through my body, one wave after another. It's so intense I can hardly bear it physically. I get this peace that kind of washes over me with a sense of knowing that everything will be okay. If, big if I stick to the commitment I just made, meaning I'll do anything. You gotta understand, nothing's okay. I've lost my family, I've lost our house, I had 50 grand in equity in one property, I lost another property, I got major problems, man. My business, that's on, it's done, everything's done. But everything will be okay if I stick to the commitment I just made, meaning I'll do anything. Nothing's okay, but I knew it was true. It's expanding, things are expanding, it seems. I'm laying there having this experience. I don't know what the hell this is. It's freaking me out a bit. I get this incredible peace kind of washes over me, and it's just getting open and open and open, and then I get this in my head. Militant atheist, I get this. Jesus Christ. And I couldn't believe it. It shocked me. It was shocking to have that come into my mind. I'm a militant atheist. And I couldn't handle it. And I said, no, I can't handle that. Because I couldn't. It was just too big.
35 years old, you said?
35 years old. And as soon as I said no, everything collapsed back into my body. And now I feel all the pain and the suffering that I'd been going through. All the pain was back. All the fears, all the anxiety was back. And I thought, what in the hell was that? Well, I just rejected it. I just, a good atheist, hell, you can't explain it away. Forget it. It means nothing. Well, I couldn't reject the whole thing because I've never had trouble staying sober since that experience. Alcohol and drugs were shut off like somebody flipped a switch in me.
That moment?
At that moment. No urges, nothing. Gone. Completely removed. Never came. We're talking 34 years. I got some history on this one, I can look back. I can assure you that I had no urges, nothing. Just like somebody flipped it off, man. It's gone.
Just took it from you.
I'll do anything was the statement.
And you got
that Jesus Christ thing came.
And you shoot it away.
Yeah, that did not convert me, guys. I'm militantly atheist. I just rejected the whole experience.
You got electricity, you got a wave, calmness, and that wasn't it.
When I said no, bang, I'm back into this craziness. Kind of like what Jesse was describing. Well, I know today when I look back on that, this sounds crazy, but I know it's true. I entered into a commitment with God, and I didn't believe in God. I entered into a commitment. How do you do that? I said, I'll do anything. I'm not living like this. I can't take another bite of this life.
Well, as a guy hearing that story, I want to say, why didn't you just take the second the shit came back down on your head? Why didn't you say, all right, wait, I do believe. I want it back. I believe.
Because I couldn't stand the idea of it. I hated the idea.
It's just what was embedded in it.
Total
You see where I just can't. I'm doing this.
I'm the belligerent one. Remember?
Okay.
The guy that's got all the ideas,
Right,
all the
right.
answers of why there's not a God. This is just BS, all BS. Well, I got to tell you, I entered into a commitment with God, and I didn't believe in him. How do you do that? I'll do anything. I can't take another bite of that life. And I have had nothing, no urges, nothing ever since. Now, I come in, just because you get the monkey off your back, it doesn't mean the circus is gone. The circus
you're
is
still a horse
in
thief.
town, baby, and I
Still
gotta
a horse
deal
thief.
with that lunatic that's talking to me, and he's talking a lot to me. This is a nightmare, and I don't believe. And I'm trying to believe, but I can't. And I can't force myself to believe. And during my first months, probably three months of sobriety, I finally just couldn't take the pain of my grievances, and I wrote an inventory, the resentments. I just couldn't take another bite of all the hatred I had in my head. I had so much chaos. Well, somebody sent me something. I'm just going to read you something. How much time do we got anyway?
We got another 15.
Okay. I want to.
Where are you reading from?
I'm going to get. It's in chapter 5. It's on page 60. Let me see.
This is how and why.
62.
First, we had to quit playing God.
Yeah, it didn't work. This is the how and the why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Now, I didn't think of this as playing God. My life just wasn't working. Next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, we are his agents. He is the father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. I wanted to puke after I read that. I really did. I read that. This is just, I can't. Well, yeah, let's all hold hands and sing Kumbaya.
Kumbaya.
This is the crap that's in my mind. I'm just rebellious as you can get. But I made a commitment. I said I'll do anything. And I'm telling you guys,
Who are you saying it to?
myself, I didn't think I was talking to God. I didn't believe in God. I just said it. I made a commitment to myself. I'll do anything. I meant that. I still mean that. That decision is still in force. If my sobriety was dependent on my belief, I'd have been drunk a long time ago. My sobriety has been dependent on a commitment that I made. And here's what somebody sent me one day in the mail anonymously. I had told my story somewhere. I don't know, I'd spoke a lot at different places. I don't know even where it was. But I get this in the mail. No idea who it's from. It says, the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would come his way. Really? Well, she heard somebody, a guy, I assumed, I don't know why I assume it, I assume it came from some gal. I don't know why I made that assumption, you know. Most guys probably wouldn't send something like that, I guess, I'd think, you know. But anyway, here's what the book says. Now, I've made the commitment. Guys coming into the treatment center that I'm in are carrying the message out to all kinds of treatment centers, detoxes, and I just hook up with them and I start going, not because I want to work a program, because I'm depressed and it lifts me out of my depression, see? I can't stand how I feel. I'm miserable. I'm depressed, sober, got lots of loss. You know, when you got a lot of resentment, I'll tell you, it's probably, there's a lot of self-pity behind that stuff. You're feeling sorry for yourself. Well, I'm out there, and I wake up depressed. That night, I got a commitment. It lifts me up. Next morning, depressed. That night, I got another commitment because I'm going out with these guys every night of the week. Lifts me back up. Next morning, depressed again. I didn't even want to get out of bed sometimes. Didn't want to face the day. But I knew I had a commitment later on in the day, so I'd go and it'd lift me. And I went through my early sobriety that way. And I'm out reading the big book, reading paragraphs, things that are relevant, that are helping me, okay, as I'm going. Tapes I'm listening to, things like that. Well, so I'm doing a lot of that, not because I'm trying to work a program. I'm doing it because it works. Nothing noble about this. Pure self-interest. Not selfish, because selfish is without concern for others in the dictionary. So listen to what it says. It says, when we sincerely took such a position, I'll do anything, all sorts of remarkable things followed. And it did. We had a new employer. Being all-powerful, he provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Well, do you think I thought I was performing God's work?
No.
I didn't believe in him.
Exactly.
Even though I had that experience 2 months earlier, I didn't believe in him. But you know what? He provided, something was providing what I needed, and I didn't know what it was, but something was helping me. Solutions to problems in my life were working out in ways I never could have imagined a solution coming from. I wanted this job, didn't get it. A better job came. I wanted this thing, didn't get it. Wanted this relationship, didn't get it. Something better came, okay? So somebody was providing what I needed. This is how the atheism broke. I didn't think I was performing God's work. I'm just trying to save my own rear. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. My depression was all about being interested in myself and my own little plans and designs. You think this isn't true? Go think about yourself and your problems and let me know how you feel.
First,
It's depressing.
first time I heard that, I just went, oh.
It is depressing. So established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves. Yeah, I'm doing 12-step work. Our little plans and designs. That's a break. That's a big break. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. Ooh, what's going on here? I'm trying to contribute to life. Instead of taking from life, I'm trying to help. That's a reversal of the selfishness. Remember? It said selfishness, self-centeredness. That we think is the root of our troubles. Selfishness takes, love gives. I'm actually in harmony with God or love, and I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God, but I know that love gives. Well, I equate today God with love. Okay? More and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, I did. As we enjoyed peace of mind, I was having some of that. As we discovered we could face life successfully, this was happening to me. As we became conscious of His presence, meaning God's presence, that wasn't happening yet. We began to lose our fear of today. I was. Tomorrow. Or the hereafter. We were reborn. Guys, I was having a reborn experience as an atheist, as described in the book.
This is bogus. See, Rick, we need more time because you're getting to. I know where you're getting to.
We got
but,
time.
Well, you'll do anything.
Right.
You said I'll do anything.
What do you think I'm here on a Friday night doing this?
All right.
I'm
Right.
mobile?
I thought you just really liked Dad, but
I'm trying to save my own ass.
but now came to
Not
believe.
depressed
There's still you're building up to that point. Like you just explained all these things. Where in that point in your mind that, there is God. I do believe, and that's where
I
this
didn't believe in God.
No,
I
I-
just saw that something was helping me. 'cause
greater than yourself.
As an atheist, when good things happened, I took the credit. When bad things happened, I gave it to you
Right.
or someone.
Right.
I didn't want to be responsible when it was negative. But what are they talking about here? They're leading up to the third step prayer. And the prayer basically says, God help me to be helpful.
Yeah.
That's all the prayer says. I was doing that not believing in God. I was working step 3 and I didn't even believe. How can you do that?
You
I'll
can.
do anything.
Right.
I'll do anything. I'll show up. I'll try and help. And the more I did it, the better I felt. And then I took actions. I did the inventory. I took actions I didn't believe in, and I got results I couldn't deny. And I just want to close what I'm talking about with this. This is in a member's eye view of Alcoholics Anonymous. I saw this paragraph. I read this. It's probably the best pamphlet in AA as far as
Which pamphlet is it?
a member's eye view of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's incredible. This guy says it here, and this is not Bill. This is written by a guy who was doing a talk to a university or something, or I think it was a bunch of counselors who were going through school. He says, he's talking about AA. He's sticking his neck out saying what AA is. You know, we generally don't do that. We say what it's not. You know.
The difference is.
Yeah. He says, there must come a day, it seems to me, when every alcoholic, in or out of AA, finally sits down in the presence of his enemies. When he does, he will be amazed to discover that he is attending a meeting of one, himself. You bet. That's the inventory. The day the alcoholic in AA realizes that his enemy is within, that the tigers are largely creatures of his own design and lurk in his own unconscious. That is the day when for him AA becomes what I believe its founders meant it to be, a flight into reality. Oh boy. That's exactly what has been happening to me. It's a flight into reality. How much reality do I see today? I have no idea. I can tell you the world is not hostile to me today. Why? Because I quit attacking it. When I quit attacking it, it stops attacking me.
True
When I
that.
was attacking it, it was attacking me. I learned how to love through the guy, Grizzly Adams. Remember Grizzly
Oh
Adams?
yeah,
He was the guy who walked with the bear in the
Ben
field.
Ben Adams.
Ben.
Ben
he had
Adams.
General Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was watching
I'm
that
not
when I was a
that
kid.
young.
Now, this rang my bell when I was very young. And I never forgot it, and it came back to me as I stayed sober, when I got sober. I saw this probably when I was 12 years old or something. I don't know, I was young. But it registered somehow with me in a very real way. And this is what happened. It's just a little scene in one of the shows where he's walking with the bear in the field, out in the mountains. And somebody comes up and says, "Hey, Grizzly," meaning the man, "why don't you tie the bear up? Aren't you afraid he'll run away?" And Grizzly Adams looks at him and says, "If the bear don't want to be here, I don't want to keep him." That's love. If the sponsee don't want to be here, I don't want to keep them. You don't abuse them. You don't tell them, go screw yourself or get angry with them. Hey, if they don't want to be, if Pam, when she left me, didn't want to be there, why would I want to keep her? Selfishness and self-centeredness. That we think is the root of our trouble.
This goes to my dad joke last week. If love is like a fart. If you have to force it, it's crap. No
You've been
difference.
stuck on
Well,
that joke.
certainly could be.
I like that. If your sponsor doesn't want to be there, let him go.
Sponsee.
Don't force it.
Or
You
anybody
don't-
in your life.
Yeah.
Anybody
Life,
in your
life.
don't
For
force it.
anybody or
That's what I mean.
anything.
Yeah, don't force it. The beginning of that reading out of that literature, the pamphlet was, you set yourself in a room with your enemies, you're going to be alone.
No, you're gonna.
Somewhere along those lines,
You have to,
confront your enemies, and
in the privacy of your own mind,
yeah,
you have to look. That's the inventory.
Yeah.
That's the fourth step in AA.
yeah. Get a shovel, man.
Right?
It's deep.
Oh, it was good. That
Get a
pamphlet,
snorkel.
I read that early on. It really impacted me. That particular paragraph caught me. And I've been caught by a lot of the literature in different ways. That's why I read the literature to people. I love AA. I love the books. I love Bill's writing. He was incredible,
Jesse,
I just had a thought. If you're gonna go home and watch cartoons, check out Tudor Turtle.
Tudor Turtle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hear that, baby? Tudor Turtle.
See what you.
T-O-O-T-E-R. Tudor Turtle.
oh come on, give us a little synopsis,
I
boys.
want to be a turtle.
I'll give you a little help. When you look for him you'll find him on YouTube. But look at this profile. See this?
He looks just like Jesse.
Yeah.
Tudor Turtle. You guys don't look
He
alike.
does. No, he
No,
does.
wait. Look
I'm
from the
looking at him
side.
now.
Look from the side. I'll help a little
You
bit.
mean like that?
Like this.
Stop it.
Here, I'll show you a picture. Wait a minute.
Am I looking at the right guy?
That's the guy. There's all kinds
Yours
of.
is way prettier than that.
There's
Tudor
all-
Turtle.
O-O-T-E-R.
There's all kinds of those.
I'm gonna give you a picture. I'll find it.
Yeah, it's right here. This is
I'm
Tudor.
gonna show you the right picture. You gotta see this. This
That,
is great.
that one's jacked up a little bit. There's a better picture.
There's a better picture of Tudor.
And his
Tudor never wants to be a turtle. He wants to be a big shot. Oh, who's that sound like, huh?
Oh.
every one
Oh,
of the
shit.
guys I've met in it. No, all right. Tudor Turtle is a cartoon about a turtle that first appeared in the 60s as a segment of the King Leonardo and his debut. 39 episodes.
That way.
Oh, that's totally.
Ready?
Is that it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's totally Jesse with the cape. With the cape. If he had a
Yeah.
cape, yeah.
Okay, he's gonna
You ready?
give it wrong.
Here. Ready?
You guys gotta see Rick's walking around showing us side
Oh my
profiles of this.
But you got to get the intent.
There we go. Oh, you know what?
He just
Hang
made
on,
the
hang on,
face
Rick,
and
come bring
everything.
that back over here. Come back over here. And Jesse, make that face. All right, here. Let me see it. Here we go. Perfect. Got it.
Oh my
See,
God.
being that we're on the radio, the audience doesn't even know what we're doing here with dead air. But yeah, Rick was walking around with this perfect picture.
Oh, yeah.
And Jesse's
Here,
putting on
here,
this
here,
pout
here,
face. Anyone who sees me outside here, I'll show you pictures of it. No, these are awesome shows with these boys.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it.
These are
I saw
phenomenal.
this
These
in
are
my
our
car
monthly
mirror
debut
one day
shows.
after watching that.
Getting to that time.
We can go as long as we want, really, but we should.
See if
we should
Jesse
get-
wants to.
I want to see if Jesse has anything else to say before we
Yeah,
sign off.
get into
Do
wrap-ups.
gratitude. I got a segment. Unless you want to take a segment tonight because you skipped your segment. I tried to give my segment to Elena, but I wrote one now. So
No, you run with it.
Did you really? Oh yeah. Elena did.
I
her
talked about
segment.
anger earlier, and I'm
check
good.
that out.
I talked about the whole anger thing, and I'm good. The audience, they're fine to hear
Let's
anymore
get
from
into
me.
gratitude, and then we'll see if Jesse has anything
Well,
when he
being
gets
that
back.
the past weeks and all this and that and what's been going on, I'm gonna just go ahead and be like, Ted, what are you grateful for this week?
Hey! I'm grateful that you're
Yeah.
good. Good job. Hey!
Hey.
You know what? I'm grateful for my life. That sounds like a cop out, but I get to show
Not at all.
up for things. I get to have sponsors or sponsees. I get to have relationships. I get to have mentees. And the best part is I get to choose, who's in my life. I get to choose
Oh,
who
do
to
you?
follow.
Do you really?
Yeah.
To an extent.
Or are people coming when you're ready, so you can teach them what you need to learn?
Sometimes.
Hey,
Sometimes.
Confucius over here.
Sometimes.
Love it.
But
I love that.
if there's people in my life and they're always screaming and saying horrible things, I get to choose to walk away or not listen to that now.
Right.
And whereas I would stay in that, and I tell myself before I'd live in the chaos. One of
Those are
the
the guys that'll alter you.
right, one.
Hang around with the guy you can't stand until you get past it.
Oh man,
It's gonna help you grow the most.
right. One of the biggest things that I'm grateful for though this week has just been my girlfriend Mandy. We're just taking time each night to connect now, and it's a new thing, and it may or may not have been recommended by a therapist, but whatever. However you get there, and because it came to my attention in one of these possible therapy sessions that maybe like my idea of connecting is not really connecting. Me coming home and manically spitting how my day is, asking and then giving her 2 minutes of time and playing video games or putting on cartoons, that's not fucking connecting. Not at all. So, and like I've said, like her thing is in-depth conversation. She hears me have them on the podcast. She watches me do this daily with hundreds of people, and then she gets butts or stupid jokes like that. She gets me being a goof. So I'm grateful for her patience, and I'm grateful for this new chapter. Rick, what are you grateful for today?
I'll tell you something, guys. I'm grateful for you guys, really, because you're carrying a message here and you're doing something. You're not just sitting on your tails. You're out there. You're trying to put something on here. You're trying to help the community. It's incredible. We need that. Everybody's got a role here. You'd help people I couldn't touch. Really.
Yeah.
Everybody's individually got something that another person is going to connect with, and they show up in your life. And when I said that a minute ago, I meant it seriously. That sponsees, when people appear in your life, whether it be women, sponsees, just guys who show up, whatever it is that comes into your life, I'm telling you, once you make a decision to do this, people are going to show up. And when they come, you're going to teach them what you need to learn.
It's true.
Wow. Sometimes you don't hear it till you
Come to
say
help
it.
you.
One of those things,
And
yeah.
sometimes the person is abrasive and it's ugly. That's the guy who's really going to give you a boost if you can get past it and see him differently. Don't run away from that. It's an opportunity for healing.
Well put. So Jesse, what are you grateful for?
Well, I'm grateful for being here tonight. This is really the best part of the day. Isn't that fun? But you guys are alive and you're vital, and it's exciting to be a part of this. So
Thank
it's
you.
really great.
Thank you guys.
That's great.
That warms
Yeah,
my
both
heart.
you guys. Hey Matt, hop on over here and tell us what you're grateful for this week.
And Elena and friend, come over to my mic.
Lane and Mike, I believe, right? Yeah, Lane and Mike, come on, get warmed up. So Matt's gonna tell us what he's grateful for, followed up with his daily quote.
I'm grateful for my relationship with my girlfriend. She helped me find a car this last weekend. So like,
Oh, did you get a car?
yeah, I got a car.
Good job, buddy.
Yeah. So,
Feel it?
oh no, not. I don't do that no more. I paid cash, so it's nice to have my own car. I'm grateful for the opportunity to go down to see my family this week tomorrow with my car, like show it off to my family. It's the first time I've had a car in my life. size of my mom's car she bought me for my permit test. So my quote is, when we learn to label challenging situations or problems as fascinating rather than frustrating, something shifts within that allows us the solution to reveal itself.
Nice. Yet another one, young Matthew. Good job. All right, well, Elena, I'm going to ask your friend Mike, what are you grateful for this week?
Totally.
Get right up on that mic, as close as you're able to.
I'm grateful for the people that have came into my life in the times that they did, which is friends and family that are there to support me.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, and thank you for coming on and sharing. Hopefully, we'll see you sooner than later, it sounds like. Elena, what are you grateful for, babe?
Oh, what am I grateful for? You know what I'm grateful for.
The weekend. If you're here long enough, it comes, I think, once every 5 to 7 days.
I know. I'm grateful it's the weekend, and of course, I'm grateful that tomorrow I get to go to my meeting. Everybody knows we go to Blaine Alleno at 10:10. And tomorrow we're having a potluck after our meeting. So if anybody wants to come up for the potluck, Tim, that was a you should come up for the meeting tomorrow. I'm really great this week. You know what? You guys, I didn't do a check-in earlier, so I just want to tell you I'm really grateful this week because I'm like purging my entire house. I'm starting to get rid of stuff in my house. So and it's stuff that I have kept since before I got sober, and I'm realizing that I don't need it anymore. So I'm starting to get rid of things that I don't need in my life anymore. It feels amazing. It feels amazing, but I will tell you, I have like 5 garbage bags in my basement full of stuff, and they don't fit in my garbage can. So this is going to be a slow purge. So I'm very grateful this week, and I'm grateful that you guys were here because this is, I feel bad I missed last month, but this is like one of my favorite shows is coming to listen to you guys talk about the big book and the steps. So that's all I got, dude.
Okay.
I don't want to ask you nothing. All right, Tim, what are you grateful for?
Family. I'm grateful for family support that we get.
Oh, it was just Mama's birthday.
Yeah, it really was. Happy birthday, Mom. It was a milestone for her, too. She just turned 50. I'm 42, guys.
I was gonna say, how does she have a 60-year-old kid when
I
she's
get
50?
to eat the meat and leave the bones nowadays. I get to eat the meat and leave the bones. You know what? Today I've changed it all up. I'm grateful for hearing new things and really understanding what I'm hearing. There was a time where I may have heard it, but I didn't take it in, or I didn't accept what I was hearing. Rick and Jesse dropped some A-bombs on us tonight, and it's stuff like that. Now I'll sit and regurgitate it and try to pass it on to the next guy, knowing. And I've been very conscious of this lately. Is as much as Tad and I move around and we do, trying to speak at detoxes and recovery centers and out here trying to greet the newcomer, we will be at points the only taste of recovery some of these people might see, or the only thing they ever hear of recovery. So it's people like our predecessors that were on the show tonight, the people that came before us. I know better than to put you guys on this tall pedestal, but I enjoy you guys and the information you share, your experiences, your strengths, your hopes. I grow through that as long as I'm open to hear something new, because my head wants to tell me I got it figured out. I know best, but I know better than that. I'm grateful.
You have to have your own experience.
Yeah, no, and we had a guy on here, Ken R., who really pushed that home. And in early recovery, I thought I wanted Jesse's experience. Look at how happy he is, this and that. I want that. But I do have to have my own experience. And I'll stand behind that. You have to get out and have you can't have my experience. That's mine. And I came to get that how I got it. And whatever can get you in the room, awesome. But you got to have your own experience. I'm grateful to be able to stay open to hear new messages. That's what I'm really grateful for today.
Hey, Jesse, did you have any things you wanted to say before we moved along and got off?
I think we've covered it just fine for today.
Okay, we just wanted to
I'd
check
like
with
to say
you.
one thing. When I came to believe, it wasn't until after I did inventory.
Inventory was the
These
key.
things I shared about, how are you going to find an experience of love with a head full of hate?
Yeah.
You got to get the junk out of the way because it's separating me from an experience of God.
Okay, now I got something to say. See, I had this experience that I told you about where everything was great and I had no problems. If I never came back to inventory, never came back to AA, all that hate came back.
So inventory is the key for both of you.
It is the key.
And it should be, and I know you guys won't tell anyone what to do.
No, but we can.
No, but don't try and believe something you don't believe. Write the inventory and it'll start to change. It'll induce experiences you can't explain away.
Yeah, like you said earlier, I took actions I didn't believe in, but got results.
I couldn't deny it.
You couldn't deny. Got results you couldn't deny by taking actions you didn't believe in.
That's right.
Come on.
So, you guys know what's going to happen next month on the 18th?
What would that be?
Jesse and Rick will be back to do step 3.
Oh, and speaking of that, this next Wednesday on the 23rd, 4-Step Workshop's back up and running right here at the in the auditorium at 2218 on Wednesday nights at what time, boys?
6:30.
There you go. Come here. Bring a big book.
Apparently-
If you don't have a big book, we usually can get one. Find one.
They'll find you something to use.
We'll find you something to use.
Apparently, I'm going to try and start making those. Well, I have somewhat of an open schedule.
Bring a notebook too, because there's ideas that bounce around the room. I took a lot of notes. I still take notes.
It's also online. The
Oh.
workshop, Bob and I did this years ago for a men's retreat up in Washington State. And they had called me to come out to this retreat and do a step. And I said, why don't we do a workshop on inventory? So we did the whole weekend on it, and that's at aabythebook.org.
aabythebook.org. We'll get that on our site right
can
now on the
find-
messages.
You can find the
workshop.
inventory too on there
AA.
and print it off.
So
Everything's on there.
aabythebook.org.
It's all free.
Yeah.
It's also on YouTube, I
aabythebook.org.
guess. Somebody put it on YouTube, but.
Yeah, you can't
This
really.
one that Bob and I did, and Bob died a couple of years ago, and Jesse filled in, for that. So Bob and I were kind of opposites too, and Jesse and I are kind of opposites in the way we've.
That seems to work out really well,
Yeah.
right? You're getting
Right.
different kind of views. aabythebook.org.
Right.
All right, I posted that too.
Next week we have Brady and Pete are supposed to be here. If for some reason there's a scheduling conflict, Brady's gets busy, and I'll be checking with Pete because he's going to be on next month
And
too.
we got Jeff who can back in. We got backups.
Yeah, otherwise it'll be Jeff. We just got to get here by 8 to grab him.
Yeah.
Hey man, I love y'all. You're not alone.
Never alone.
You're never alone.
Just reach out, and you are worthwhile. You're worthy. Like, come on. You're never alone. We won't know that you're hurting unless you reach out. Keep reaching out. Keep picking the phone up if someone doesn't answer that first call. No one's going to know if you're struggling unless you let us know.
If you have any ideas for the show, guest, you want to help, graphic designer, you have some music, anything, reach out to Tim or I. We're gonna chug like around. We're gonna move right along into
So, you guys, buckle up, because this is the time of the night that things get real. This is when the whole curtain opens up and you get the realness. And from the far depths of the south side, from the north end of the eastern western area, comes the one and only
TAD.
TAD Tad.
This is final thoughts with Tad.
Yes,
Hey
it is.
everybody. So something I've heard in the comments and with sponsees, friends, and family members a lot is, Tad, I'm just going through a lot. I have a lot of it's just worse right now. I'm going through a lot, but what are you doing? Like, look, I don't have magic answers. You heard a guest on my show earlier say I don't have the answers. I can say this, and he went right into the solution, the steps. All I'm really gonna say about it in my final thought today is this shit happens. Shit happened when I used a lot, and I just ignored it or made it worse. That was kind of my things. And it doesn't mean today that I have all the answers, because I don't. In fact, ignoring personal problems is my factory normal setting. That's actually my go-to, is pretending that it's not there and not talking about it, and let's have fun. So, and that's all right. It just means that today, all that means doesn't mean I have the answers. Like I said, what it means is that I have tools. Tim talks about that a lot, and resources. I have steps, I have inventory, and I have friends. And life is gonna happen. Life is hard. Shit sucks. The ability to deal with life on life's terms is what I've been given, and that's through this program, and that's by no small miracle. You know, it doesn't mean I have to deal with life on life's terms because, like I said a little bit, I get to, and I said a little bit ago, dude, I like to ignore shit and pretend it doesn't happen. It does,
That was diarrhea.
right? You know, so you intuitively know how to handle things that you didn't. That doesn't mean you're going to know everything. That doesn't mean I woke up and I'm this super genius that, boom, I can fix your problem. I can fix my, and I'm going to hit the stock market. That's not what it means. I wish. But you know what? Today, I just have brief clarity sometimes, brief serenity sometimes. And you know what? That's only if I continue to work for this shit. And it gets better sometimes. Other times, you know what? If my dad dies tomorrow, hopefully he doesn't. Sorry, Dad. That doesn't mean that I'm going to know how to handle that. It doesn't mean that that's going to be okay. It doesn't mean that it's not going to suck. I have a friend who lost his brother. I can call him. I have tools. I help all these guys at the sober house with grief because I've lost people. So like I know the resources. Today, you know, I choose mentors or God sends them into my life. And you know what? Do I make better choices today? Sometimes. Not always. Not always. You know, somebody would say, you know, for a guy, you think you're pretty self-righteous and you know a lot of stuff for a guy who chooses to collect toy cars. And, you know, that might be true, but it's what makes me happy. So, you know, one thing I've learned is I don't make decisions out of my emotions anymore because that's when I'm on the phone with Tim or my other friends because I make shitty decisions when I'm emotional. As an emotional person, I need to give it air to breathe because I feel differently. And that's not to say through working the steps and stuff that process hasn't shrunk down because it has. It's not a 3-day, a 4-month process. It can be a 20-minute process, but sometimes I'm human. Sometimes it is a day or two process. Some things sting more. Life's gonna suck at times, and we choose to live in the solution. That just means we have people that can help us and tools that can help us. It doesn't mean that we have all the answers. And with that, guys, I love all of you. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. This has been Tim and Tad here with Jesse and Rick. And from all of us, including Matt and Elena, at the Attitude for Gratitude in 2218, have a blessed week.